Thanks, mate. Good on you. Thank you. Good on.
Keep picking up.
Yeah, we will. All right.
Great.
Thanks. That's the man.
Hi, how are you?
I'm there now from SBS. I'm interviewing.
It's really nice to see you again. We'll just do this and come back.
Good to meet you. I'm there from SBS Radio. Good to meet you. Thank you. Just let us know you're ready to go, guys. No worries.
I'm good.
Well, thanks for coming along. And Samantha Ratnam, leader of the Victorian Greens, and myself, we're here to speak in support of what is unspeakable cruelty going on in this country right now. We're here joining millions of Australians who don't want to see this family being torn apart. It's Father's Day and the government's parting gift is to tear a family apart. On Father's Day, when we should be celebrating all the great things about what it means to be part of a loving community and a parent, the government's parting gift is to say to a family, we're going to rip you away from your community. We're going to treat young kids who are born here, with unspeakable cruelty, and we're going to continue to perpetuate torture on innocent people. And what has gone on here is cruel, it's barbaric, it's inhumane, and it's not the Australia that people know and love. What this government has decided to do for no good reason, let's be absolutely clear about this, this is senseless cruelty. This is cruelty for the sake of being cruel. It's nonsense that somehow this sends a message to other people. It's just so wrong. No one believes that. This is a minister in Peter Dutton taking pleasure in the suffering of others. That's what's going on here. It is barbaric, it's cruel, and it needs to end. And people right around the country, no matter their political persuasion, no matter whether they're from regional communities or from the city, they understand that this is not what decent people do to each other. They understand that. And that's why we're hearing unlikely allies, people like Barnaby Joyce today, who voiced his concern about what's going on. People like Alan Jones, people with whom we have very little in common, but who understand the depths to which this government has plumbed. What is going on is unnecessary, it's cruel, and it's got to stop. The minister has the discretion to end this today, on Father's Day, and he should show some heart and some decency and let these people stay in Australia. It's what he should do.
Sorry, when you say Peter Dutton's taking pleasure in other people's suffering, do you really think that's the case?
Well,
He's actually enjoying this?
I worry that Peter Dutton here is doing this for no other reason than for his own purposes, because this serves no purpose other than to be cruel to people for the sake of being cruel. But why else is he doing this? He has the discretion. We have a family that has made an incredible contribution to a regional community. The community of Billawheeler have welcomed this family in with open arms. They want them to stay. We've got two young kids who were born in this country. This is all they know. These are kids who are, for all intents and purposes, Australians. They know nothing else than this land into which they have been born. We've got a family who have witnessed and experienced, again, cruelty in the country from which they've fled. They've seen people being murdered. They don't want to return to Sri Lanka because they fear for their safety. We have people from right across the community saying, look, even if it's just limited to this case, use your discretion and let them stay. And you say, what's the government done? What has Peter Dutton done? In the dead of night, sending in guards to take these people away, put them onto an aeroplane, have that aeroplane then land in Darwin, the government's response is to ship them off to Christmas Island. This is the sort of stuff you expect in dictatorships. It's not the stuff you expect in a decent country like Australia. And that's why people are appalled at what's going on. It's why you're seeing right around the country people speaking up. You're seeing millions of Australians saying, we have to stop. This is not the country we know. And I have no explanation I can't offer any explanation for what Peter Dutton is doing other than he must somehow be getting some benefit from it. I don't know what that is. Is this somehow trying to ape Trump's America? Are we on this path where we're trying to be cruel and brutal to our fellow human beings to try and win a few cheap votes from people on the hard right? I mean, I have no other explanation. What I do know is this, is that today's Father's Day. Right now, family has been ripped apart. We've got young kids being traumatised. This will scar them forever. And we have a government that is being unspeakably cruel and inhumane. That's what I do know. What I know is that many millions of Australians are saying enough's enough. You've got ministerial discretion, now use it. Today's Father's Day, we're sitting down with our kids. I've got my 2 young kids over there today on Father's Day. And I was talking to them about what's happening right now. They can't understand it. They have no words to understand what is going on right now to a decent family fleeing an awful situation, a family that's been here now for many, many years, 2 kids born in this country, connected to a regional community, a community that loves them, that's embraced them and that wants them to stay. And Peter Dutton's response is to send them to Christmas Island. It's shameful, it's disgraceful, and today on Father's Day, he should show that he's got a heart, he should intervene and let this family stay.
You say this issue's been going on since, I think, March last year, and the government has repeatedly refused to budge on this. So would you concede that the push to let the Tamil family stay in Australia is realistically doomed because the government does not appear to be budging on this?
Well, we don't know yet, and the only way we're going to get the government to budge is when decent Australians speak up, and that's what's happening right now right across the country. There are rallies like this happening right across Australia. There are prominent Australians speaking up and voicing their concerns, and we've even got, when you've got Barnaby Joyce saying, well, this is a family that's made a contribution to a regional community, let them stay, you know that there's pressure going on within the government. So Peter Dutton's feeling that pressure right now, so he should. The Prime Minister parades his Christian values. Well, here's an opportunity to demonstrate what your values mean in practice. It's one thing to talk about these things amongst your community, a community of faith. It's another thing to live those values. And there's nothing Christian about saying to a family, we're going to tear you apart from your community and we're going to put you in harm's way. And that's what this government's doing right now.
The Home Affairs Department have said their refugee, claims for refugee status have been comprehensively assessed, and it's the opinion of the Home Affairs Department that they're not owed protection, and this is, as my colleague said, been going on for a number of years. So if the Home Affairs Department has come to that conclusion, why should there be an exception made for this particular family?
Well, within the Act there is ministerial discretion. It allows for situations where there is a specific local context where, while a family or individuals might not meet the technical definition according to the department of being a refugee, there are still circumstances that deem that that family should be settled in Australia and be offered protection and an opportunity to start a new life. Ministerial discretion is there for a reason. It's there to take into account the unique circumstances of each and every individual. Now, we know what the circumstances are here. There's a family who fled, and look, Samantha Ratnam, who's the leader of the Victorian Greens, I want Samantha to maybe say a few words as well, because this is something that's very close to her heart. This is a family that's experienced suffering and hardship in their country of origin. This is a family that has witnessed people being murdered in what was a very brutal civil war. This is a family now that made their life in Australia, welcomed in by a regional community, 2 young children born here. This is their country, this is all that they know. The Minister can use his discretion. And if the Minister has even a shred of decency, compassion, he should step in now and let this family stay.
Hi everyone, Samantha Ratnam, leader of the Victorian Greens. What we're witnessing now is unimaginable cruelty against a family that this community, our Australian community, the community of Billawheeler, has absolutely fallen in love with. I'm a member of the Tamil community, I'm a member of the Australian community, and Priya and Ades and their girls are a member of the Tamil community, and they're a member of the Australian community. And our community is saying, asking and pleading for this government to let them stay. My family and I witnessed the beginnings of the war that drove people like Priya and Ades out of Sri Lanka. I still remember back in 1983 when the riots took over our community. Our city was burning. We were separated from our parents. But what we went through was nothing compared to what people like Priya and Ades went through for decades after that, when the war raged on. And I can tell you from that experience that we had as young kids, which I still remember every single detail of, that those young girls, Priya and Nadis's girls, won't forget what this government is now doing to their family, to witnessing them being separated from their parents.
Up there, so we'll give it a couple of minutes, but if you can start to gather in a little bit, that would be great.
We need this government to show some compassion, like the community of Billawheeler, who've absolutely fallen in love with them, embrace them because they have been such incredible parts of their community. We're asking them to let them stay. And let's not forget that the rules were rewritten in the last few years. Our immigration rules, who was deemed to be a refugee or a person seeking asylum, that was changed because of political reasons. So we've now got thousands of families like Priya and Ades right here in Australia pleading for asylum, wanting our protection and our safety, yet we have a regime of politics that has deemed them not to be deserving of protection. But it was our change of rules that deemed that. It didn't change the very fact that they fled for their lives. They have fled from things that we can't imagine that they have seen and they have been through. And it's time we show a heart and we show some compassion and we let them stay.
We're calling on the government to show some compassion, to bring Priya Ades and her family back home to Billawheeler. Sending them back to Sri Lanka puts their lives in danger. We know very well that the Sri Lankan government continues to torture and persecute the Tamil people on the island of Sri Lanka. The civil war may have ended in 2009, but there are several reports from humanitarian agencies as well as eyewitness accounts from Tamils who have been deported, that Sri Lanka is not a safe place for Tamils to return. We from the Tamil Refugee Council urge the Australian government to bring Priya Ades and her family back home to Billawheeler. That is the only thing that we ask. Thank you.
One more, folks, and we also...
I'm a friend of the family and long-time visitor in MITA Detention Centre. Friends, I've been visiting over the last 18 months in MITA Detention Centre with Nardis and Priya. Over that time, we've come to know them as people and come to see exactly why the people of Billawheeler are fighting so hard to bring this family home to where they belong in Billawheeler, in the community there. They're a good-natured family. They are hard-working. They're a loving family. The love that they have for their children. As a father myself, my heart breaks that they're in this kind of situation and that their girls are so vulnerable. I spoke to them on Monday. They were scared, they were distressed, they were distraught at the prospect of being sent back to Sri Lanka, and of course now we find that they're in Christmas Island. Having spoken to them on Friday, obviously they're distraught at what's taken place. And so we just appeal to the politicians, Mr Dutton, Prime Minister David Coleman, to let them stay.
Land rights goes on today, particularly with the fight for the Djab Wurrung birthing trees that facing a